about sects.
Sorry.
I have to say that really carefully. One time after church, well, did they have more than men and women? No, S-E-C-T-S.
Important distinction.
All right, so we have the very familiar word Pharisee. The Pharisees were those who were very conservative about Torah. And the problem with the Pharisees is they made up their own laws that they added to the laws of God, and they made legalism a part of their understanding of one's walk with God. So they felt that if you weren't doing all the things that they required, that you were unaccepted by God. That's why Jesus took on the Pharisees. Actually, of all the groups in Jesus' day, the Pharisees were the closest to Jesus. Did you know that? And the largest number of Jews who came to faith in Jesus were Pharisees, because they were Bible-oriented. So in the book of Acts, chapter 15, we have this line. Chapter 15 of Acts is where we have the Jerusalem Council, and Paul is preaching the gospel of grace, that you don't need to circumcise Gentiles if they come to Christ. They can come to Christ as Gentiles, and they don't have to become practicing Jews. And there was a big brouhaha about that, as you know. So it says in Acts 15, now some of those who believed, who were among the Pharisees, well, that's because the larger number of Jews who came to faith in Jesus were Pharisees. Now the religious liberals of the day were the Sadducees, and they were the ones, they had a shallow view of the Bible. They thought only the books of Torah were inspired, and they thought that the prophets and the writings were religious works of devotional merit, but that they weren't inspired. Because they didn't see passages in Torah that talked about resurrection, they didn't believe in the resurrection, and so they were good. See, that really works. That stays with you for life, doesn't it? Okay. So they were the liberals, and it was Sadducean priests who were in control. Then there's another group we read about in the New Testament, the Zealots, and they were all about throwing off Roman rule. So they were the revolutionaries. And then there's another group that the New Testament doesn't mention, and those are the Essenes. And if you look up the word Essene,
How do you spell that?
E-S-S-E-N-E-S, Essenes. E-S-S-E-N-E-S. The Essenes, if you look up, it'll say Jewish monastic movement. Well, that's an overstatement, but they were the ones who, they had one group here in Jerusalem, and they lived among themselves, and then another group that went out to the Dead Sea area where we were at Qumran, and they were praying for the destruction of Jerusalem because they felt it was all so wicked it wasn't worth saving. That's why they were in the desert. They didn't want to get singed. God brought Sodom and Gomorrah type destruction on them. So is that clear?
Say separatist Jews?
Yeah, they were separatist Jews. Yeah, really separatists. They would not eat with other Jews or drink with other Jews. They were their own sect within the larger. So someone asked me, are they Jews? Yes.